Tithing is a test to see whether or not you trust God for your finances.
Wait. You want me to trust God with my finances? Tom, buddy, pal. I cannot be trusted with my finances, and even I wouldn't be stupid enough to give any to your imaginary friend. That would be completely balmy of me. Anyway, back to what I was doing before I was so rudely interrupted. How many Platinum Gym memberships do I need? 5? One for each limb, right? Don't worry, I know it's expensive, and I can't technically afford them, and I'm never ever going to go. But it's an investment in my health. Okay, just got to enter my credit card number, and done. I know I shouldn't really pay on card, but I've got such a good interest rate. In fact, it's one of the highest you can get. 95% can't afford not to use it.
It's also a test to see whether or not you believe God owns everything you have.
If God owns everything, then how can I give him anything? That's like when my kids buy me Christmas presents with my own money. Yeah, it's kinda cute and all, but I really didn't need any of this exercise equipment. I already have 12 titanium gym memberships. Guess I'll just have to chuck them in the bin. The equipment can go in their bedroom then.
Or you're arrogantly thinking what you have is yours.
Is God f***ing Apple or any number of other tech companies? You don't own your hardware. We just lease it to you because reasons. F*** off, no, it's mine. I paid for it. I'll do what I want with it. And yeah, it's arrogant for me to think that the things I worked not very hard for because I'm a YouTuber and thus one step below a reality TV star for contribution to society are my things and I should be able to do with them as I wish, essentially. Didn't realise God was such a commie.
See, what is a tithe? A tithe is 10% of our income goes to God.
10% of my income? F*** off, that's like 7. I can't afford that shit. Seriously, the whole tithe thing is so arbitrary. If you can't afford to feed yourself, you definitely cannot afford to give 10% of that not enough for f***ing food money to frickin' God. Although let's be real, this shit ain't going to God, it's going into the pockets of pastors and preachers. Remind me, what do you do, Tom? Oh right, bit of a preacher boy, aren't you? Good job you wouldn't have a vested interest in convincing people to give you a significant portion of their income, otherwise you might be considered a right piece of garbage, eh?
In Hebrew and in Greek, the word tithe means tenth.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I mean, I don't know about the Hebrew, but I'm pretty sure tenth in Greek is going to be something to do with deca, because that's like to do with 10 in Greek. And oh yeah, tithe is decate, assuming I'm pronouncing that right. Now that's not to say that the concept or idea of tithing wasn't something that they did, but it's this kind of wrongness that makes you very entertaining to refute, because you never look anything up and make yourself look stupid all the time. It's quite the gift. A stupidity tithe, so to speak. Except it's 100% of the time.
I don't know if you recognize this, but the number 10 is associated with the number of testings.
The number of testes? No. What are you even talking about, Tom? Nobody has 10 testicles. That's completely ludicrous. Do you have 10 bollocks? Because that might explain why you're so antsy all the time. I mean, it's only half the amount you're supposed to have. Damn poor guy.
For example, God sent 10 plagues to Pharaoh.
Oh, you didn't say testes, you said testings. Okay, that makes slightly more sense. Phew, 20 Nut Tom is back in action, boys. Anyway, okay, so God wants you to associate giving him money with having all your shit ruined. It's an interesting strategy. Not sure how it will work out for the guy.
To get him to let God's people go.
Well, aside from the fact that the whole slaves in Egypt thing has a stunning lack of evidence, I never understood the whole let my people go. God, I don't know if you remember this, but they are all your people. I mean, Tom already said everything belongs to God, so why doesn't Pharaoh and the like belong to him too? It's almost as if when this was being written, they understood that different places had different gods and religions and thought their God was just as real as everyone else's, and that the idea of a one true God is a relatively recent invention.
God gave Israel how many commandments? Yes, 10 commandments.
When there's something like 613 commandments, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, I am famously not very smart, and am a self-admitted bad mathserizer. But, and hear me out, because this might just blow your mind, but I'm pretty sure 613 is slightly more than 10.
How many fingers do you have? 10 fingers.
Oh, well done, Tom, that's right. I mean, kinda. Thumbs aren't actually fingers, but it's fine, it's close enough. Well done, now you can count to 10. But obviously the people writing the Bible, that was pretty much all they could count up to as well. If they seem to keep using it all the time, I mean, seriously, what do you think came first? The reliance of the number 10? Or people having 10 fingers, thus assuming it was important?
The Bible tells us that Israel was tested by God in the wilderness 10 times. See, the number 10 is associated with that.
See, these motherfuckers think that the biggest number there is at any given time is apparently 10. Not exactly smart, is it? Me, I can count up to 23 because I'm a big boy and I use both all my fingers and my toes to count because I have the biggest brain.
10 times, the Bible says, Jacob's wages was changed by his uncle.
I'm sorry, what? If that's true, I don't know why, but it's just hilarious. Why would anyone change someone's wages 10 times in a short enough time period for that to fucking mean something to somebody? That's the kind of shit that makes the Bible sound exactly like a storybook written by talentless hacks. Like, seriously, it sounds like the plot of a sitcom.
10 times. In other words, it's a test of fidelity.
Nah, I think it's an easy number to remember, so it just showed up a lot in all these stories, because when you're making shit up, you need to be able to repeat what you said without fucking it up, so people don't start asking difficult questions like, wait, I thought you said it was 7 whatevers, now you're saying it's 13. What's going on? I'm starting to think that this is all made up and he's just pulling numbers out of his ass. But when you say it's 10 and everything is 10, and that's important because, I don't know, 10 fingers I guess, well, now you have a great way to explain that shit away.
10 days, Daniel and his friends were tested to see whether or not eating the foods that God required under the old covenant would be sufficient.
10 days to test if some food was enough to what? Doing alive? I mean, that's what it's for. Considering people generally survive for about a week with zero food, I'm pretty sure if God had told them that the food they needed to subsist was McDonald's and wrapping paper, they would probably have been fine, if a tad on the unhealthy side.
It was 10 days. God told the church in the book of Revelation.
Was it something to do with 10? And you know what? This whole 10-10-10 thing isn't exactly super convincing. Especially, again, when it's not like it actually goes to God. Tithes always go to a mortal person who then uses it to, I don't really know, but I can imagine hookers and blow is in there at some point.
That you will be thrown into prison for 10 days so that Satan would test you.
Oh no, 10 days in prison? How not very intimidating? I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to spend any days in prison, but 10 really isn't that long. Even if it's a pretty shitty prison, this 10s thing really varies quite wildly in the impact, don't they? 10 days of eating food versus 10 days of being in prison versus 10 literal plagues. One of these things is not like the others and seems far more impactful, really. God needs to get some new numbers. Someone buy him an abacus or something. No, wait, he should buy it for himself. He's got all the fucking money.
That's what the Bible says. 10 is a number of testing.
Yeah, but it's a shit number. Like I was saying, if you wanted to seem like a special number, you really shouldn't pick the number that just so happens to be on the end of everybody's arms. Because anyone could come up with that. You want something interesting and cool, and for those tests that are less tests and more slight inconveniences, might actually make them look like fucking tests. Perhaps something in the thousands, eh? Then maybe I would be impressed that they ate nothing but beef jerky and eyelashes whilst being imprisoned with James Corden.
Then, of course, Jesus gave the parable of the 10 virgins. You remember that?
You might be thinking, ooh, 10 versions, how very spicy. But they were actually just total nerds in their mid to late 30s, and the whole thing becomes a whole lot less interesting, doesn't it? Also, I have never really understood the appeal to that whole thing. I would rather my sexual partners were like, good and used to it and had any idea what the hell they were doing? Where's the fun in having to be someone's fucking tutorial, literally?
The 10 virgins to see who would be faithful and keep enough oil.
I'm sorry, what now? The virgins have oil. Oh, are they those famous extra virgins? Yeah, the ones who do the olive oil. Because I've always wondered about that. I mean, how can something be more virgin? Surely that's a binary. You are or you aren't. Extra virgin is like being extra dead. Like, oh man, he got so killed, he's even more dead than normal.
In other words, what I'm trying to show you is...
Oh God, I hope it's not his penis and his giant sack of 20 bollocks. Not that I mind, it's just that I'm pretty sure his will have a smiley face drawn on it, Wilson style. I mean, he needs a friend somewhere. You ever see another person in these videos? Yeah, exactly.
Tithe is really 10%, and it's a sign of testing to you.
No, it's a way for greedy leaders to get huge amounts of money out of suckers for literally nothing. I mean, why do you think that the church tended to be the richest organization ever back in the day? And even today, these fucking things, mega churches, the most, and I say this without irony, degenerate displays of unabashed greed that anyone could ever see, whilst somehow not thinking to themselves, wait a minute, I think this guy might be keeping the money instead of giving it to God.
See, when you tithe, what you're saying to God is, I'm trusting you with my finances.
But it doesn't. Even if that money really went to God, all it would mean is that you're giving a chunk of cash to someone who does literally nothing in return. And as for your finances, you still have to, do them. I mean, maybe it might be kind of sort of worth a damn if he at least did your taxes for you. But he doesn't. Also, it totally wouldn't be worth it, because that's a shitload of money. And if God really was doing something to help in that sense, you would make the system way less confusing. I mean, what the fuck is taxable profit when it's at home?
When you tithe, you're saying to God that this first fruits is yours, therefore the whole batch is holy.
Holy money. Now again, forgive me if I'm being the big wrong, but isn't money the root of all evil? And yet I know that the phrase is actually the love of money is the root of all evil, but you're telling me that money I have after giving some to God is now holy, and one would assume that you are to love that which is holy, and thus making the holy money evil, and, well, it tracks. Since if there's one thing more evil than me, it's God and almost everything he says and wants and does.
In other words, I'm acknowledging you own everything.
If you have to do it, then you kind of aren't. Like, doing something that's expected of you, that's an obligation, otherwise you're a bad person, rarely magically causes that person to appreciate doing it. And it certainly isn't an acknowledgement of, well, anything. It's more that you are rendering unto Caesar, which is obviously pretty ironic considering the circumstances. I mean, that which is Caesar's apparently isn't God's. Weird.
A lot of times people will say to me,
shut up, Tom. Why do you feel the need to keep speaking, Tom? I would really appreciate it if you just cut it out, Tom. And I, for one, think that's very mean of those people to do and say that. And it's certainly something I would never say or think extremely loudly all the time.
Well, God, why do I have to give God 10%? He owns more than 10%.
I really like your impression of one of your followers. I think it's probably very, very accurate too, given, all of your content. Now, the question is, would they take exception to this representation that sounds like a cartoon cowboy, or would they take it as a compliment since it reminds them so very much of their dear Meemaw?
Of course he owns more than 10%. He owns everything.
I think you'll find he fucking doesn't. I own all the whiskey in the universe. And that's a demonstrable fact because it's written down. And it's even spoken by me in my videos. That, not to toot my own horn, but literally hundreds of thousands of people have seen. And I even have evidence for that. Yeah, God's ownership of everything is written down, but it sure as shit hasn't been said to anyone as far as we can actually tell. And there sure as shit ain't no proof. Basically, 1-0 to Sir Sick. I am in fact better than God. Now give me all your fucking whiskey.
But you giving 10% is a test. And some of you are failing the test. And it's important that you start passing the test.
There it is, isn't it? Tom isn't here to help you, he's here to help himself to your money. And since a bunch of you realised what a scam it is, he's got to guilt you into thinking, no, God definitely needs cash for your own good, even though God already owns it, so what difference does it make? Well, two differences. It lowers your bank balance whilst inflating someone else's. God should not care about your fucking money.
Now, some people will say, oh, no, tithing is in the Old Testament. It's under law of Moses.
You know, I really do like this idea of ignoring various Bible things because they're in a certain part. And how does one improve an idea? By going further with it, of course. So how about we start ignoring the New Testament as well? Hell, let's just ignore anything even remotely associated with Christianity altogether. Does that sound like a plan? Yeah.
I'm not under the law. Can I tell you the truth? Listen, tithing is a way of life for me. It's not a law.
I think that says way more than he intended. Because again, he has this church thing going on. So one has to assume he has at the very least benefited from tithes to some degree. So in that idea, it would be a way of life, as in how he supports his own. Because what he's trying to say is that he tithes and it's very important. But where does he tithe to exactly? Well, what's the betting it's to his own little church, aka himself. Sounds like someone thinks himself a god. Well, I know one person who might be a little bit pissed off about that, mate. Me! I'm the only one who gets to pretend to be God. Damn it.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the